Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and I was always told I had a voice for radio, so today we are delving back into the standard format of the Pokemon trading card game with some games from Huddersfield Regionals. Now, I have put up 2 league challenges, one from Norwich, one from Sheffield, both in the standard format. I heartily suggest you go and check them out, and I'm going to be uploading a whole bunch of games from Huddersfield Regionals. Links will be in the description of the videos, so make sure you check all of them out, ladies and gentlemen. A couple things you need to know. This was a regionals with about 92 masters, which is very big for the UK, and it might seem like a low amount, but remember, there's about 15 to 20 people who have been to Worlds playing out of those 92. So we're talking a competitive 92. Swiss is 7 rounds. It is 50 minutes, best of 3, and we are in standard format before Breakthrough is legal. So we're talking X and Y to Ancient Origins. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so for round 3, we have got another pair of Worlds competitors, I believe both from last year. So yes, you are not seeing things, ladies and gentlemen. That is 3 rounds and 6 world competitors. We are trying to keep the standard high here. On the left, we've got Ryan Morehouse, he who has had 2 years in Masters in World, and both years has come very, very close to top cutting. And on the right, we have Danielle Hames. You see, names have just been changed over, who did qualify for Worlds last year as well. And we've got another interesting game coming on. Ryan is going to be playing, I believe, Hawlucha bats. There might be some other Lucario or something in there, but we're going to call it fighting bats for the time being until we know otherwise. And Danielle is going to be playing essentially Wailord Walls. It's got Wailord, which just soaks up damage. It's got Edgeslash, who's got his ability that stops attacks from any Pokemon that have special energy attached. It's got Regice, which stops attacks from EX Pokemon. So we start straight away with Danielle playing a Steven. That's going to allow her to search for a supporter and a basic energy, which is not ideal by any stretch of the imagination, because next turn she's going to get the Pokemon fan club going, but she's gone first. It's not the end of the world. The water energy there, she is, remember of course that Regice only blocks EX Pokemon after it's attacked. Ergo, Danielle must be playing some kind of energy here, because if she wasn't playing energy, she wouldn't be able to attack with Regice, and she wouldn't be able to block attacks from EX Pokemon. If, however, Ryan is just playing Hawlucha bats, then Regice is going to do very little, but Regice will be able to take prizes. And actually, even though Danielle's deck is built to wall her opponent and just essentially make them deck out, we could be seeing a weird thing here where Danielle actually ends up winning by taking prizes. Hawlucha's got 70 HP. Crobat has 130 HP, which is KO'd by 2 times 70, and Max is out at 50 damage, whereas Regice has 120 HP. So we could be seeing some weird situation here where Danielle's walling deck, trying to stop you attacking with special energy or EXs, or, you know, just sticking Wailord up there and going, ha ha ha, you can't kill Wailord, actually ends up winning by taking prizes. We are a long way off. We're 2 minutes into the game. So Ryan straight away starts with a Corinna. Now, we saw Nick Pierce in the previous gameplay Corinna. If you haven't watched rounds 1 and 2, links are in the description for this game. I heartily recommend that you go back and check that out. He's gone for a switch and a Hawlucha, and he's got the Hawlucha into the active straight away. He gets a special energy on there. He gets to do 60 damage, and this is the danger of playing a deck like Danielle's, as she plays a Pokemon fan club there, going for the Regice and the Wailord. I couldn't even predict them fast enough. One of the problems with a deck like Danielle's is it's built to wall. It's built to stop your opponent taking prizes. But if your opponent can start taking prizes, you can end up in a fairly dodgy situation. Having said that, Ryan is under no danger of KOing the Regice this turn, or is he? It is actually possible. If we see a Fighting Stadium Muscle Band, Hawlucha will then be doing 100. If we see a Golbat, that would put the extra 20 needed to get the KO, or indeed a pair of Golbats with either a Muscle Band or a Fighting Stadium would get the KO on Edgeslash here. Having said that, Danielle is going to bring up the Regice. We know she's got a DCE in hand. We saw it a second ago. That means she is going to be able to KO the Hawlucha. So if Ryan is playing Focus Sash, now would be a really good time to get the Focus Sash. The question is, does he want the Muscle Band for the KO or the Focus Sash? I would say the Focus Sash. Because the Muscle Band gets him the KO, but then Danielle just KOs him straight back and he loses his energy. Whereas, and we see a Muscle Band there, so there is a Lucario, which it doesn't look like he's going to use, because Lucario needs strong energy and gets walled by Regice. So Lucario's not doing a huge amount here. However, Danielle could win this game with Regice. Now, we see the Muscle Band coming down there. We see the Golbat. He needs another Golbat or a Fighting Stadium in order to get the KO, go up by 2 prizes. But I wouldn't be surprised to see his deck kind of stall right there as he Shamans for 6. There's the Fighting Stadium, so he has got the KO this turn. Of course, Danielle is then going to bring up the Regice. She's going to KO the Hawlucha. And that means, oh, actually, we see the level ball in hand from Ryan there. So Ryan would have been able to get the KO without the Muscle Band and preserve his Hawlucha. Danielle is going to bring up the Regice up and get the KO on Hawlucha. That's going to happen. At which point, Ryan's absolute best case is using the... then what? Well, it would be then Crobat, to hit for 70 damage. Now, I've talked about it from Danielle's point of view. Let's look at it from Ryan's point of view as the Edgeslash goes down. Ryan has got 2 Zubats and... oh, and this is wonderful here. She's actually got the Lysandre to KO the Golbat. That is a really good play, and that has really put it in her favour. What I was going to say was she's got the opportunity to lay down a Crobat, 3 damage, 2 Golbats, 2 damage counters each, and then attack with a Crobat for a maximum of 50. It wasn't outside the realm of possibility that Ryan could actually have KO'd the Regice, going Golbat, Crobat for 70 damage, and then KO the muscle-banded Golbat. It's a lot to ask, but it was possible. Ryan here, now we did see previously, he plays an Enhanced Hammer. I think I got a quick sneak peek of it as he was going through his deck. He's going to want that Enhanced Hammer. He needs to get rid of that DC and hope Danielle doesn't have another one. He doesn't have a Focus Sash on that Hawlucha, but really Danielle is going to want to sit here, and all she really wants is to keep... oh, and there's the VS Seeker for the Corinna. He's going to be getting the Enhanced Hammer here. Possibly a second Hawlucha, but he's going for the Enhanced Hammer. He must be. Danielle is going to need a second DCE, maybe even a second Regice to start getting set up. And also, she's going to need VS Seekers. If she can just string together a bunch of KOs on Golbats, Ryan is screwed. Oh, he hasn't gone... he hasn't gone for the Enhanced Hammer. I might have been seeing things. I thought he played Enhanced Hammer. If he doesn't play or doesn't go for the Enhanced Hammer, then what Danielle is going to want to do is get a second Regice of a Water Energy down, assuming she plays 2. I assume she does. Next turn, she's going to want to go Regice Water Energy, getting a second Regice set up. Because if she can be streaming hits with Regice, it's hard to see how Ryan's really going to do very much in this game. The only thing with which he can attack the Regice is a Golbat. Oh, and there's a Crushing Hammer from Danielle, which is kind of, to be honest, wasted because that Hawlucha's going down. Oh, no, it's not going down. Of course it isn't. She's got the Lysandre. It would be better to have a second Regice down, but beggars can't be choosers. Now, there is a possibility Ryan gets the KO here. If he's got Crobat, which it looks like he has got, if he's got Crobat Energy Muscle Band, he will have the KO here. The Crobat will, the ability will put Regice on 30. Oh, and there's a Miltank, which is going to get the job done just as well. I was going to then say Energy and a Muscle Band gets the KO, But actually, dropping a Crobat and then using a Miltank would. Miltank does do 80 damage, but only if there's a stage 2 on the bench. And now this is putting Danielle under a huge amount of pressure very, very quickly. Had she had a second Regice with that second water energy, now she's absolutely rolling, but she hasn't done so. We would assume she also plays... the name of the stadium has completely escaped me. It's going to come back to me in a minute. Rough Seas, which allows you to heal 30 damage from each of your water or electric energy per turn of water Pokemon, but she hasn't done that. Oh, and he's got the Enhanced Hammer as well. Although he doesn't need the Enhanced Hammer, and he's not playing it. Why would you? He's got the KO. He's going to keep the Enhanced Hammer in hand. So... maybe playing the Enhanced Hammer last turn would have helped, but then again, everything he's done has got him the KO this turn, and now he's 2 prizes up and he is completely in control. However, he's used a lot more cards than Danielle. How does he KO the Wailord? Now, the way he does it is with Hawlucha, but we can assume that Danielle is playing healing cards. And actually it goes up to 120 there with the strong energy coming down. Now we get Alessandra on the... and Danielle is clutching at straws here. Unless she's got... she doesn't have a DCE. A DCE would have been cool there. She would have been able to lock Lucario in the active. Now Lucario can attack Seismitoad, and actually he's doing 50 damage here as it is. And this game has swung around completely. Ryan has played this beautifully. He accepted the fact that Danielle was going to take a couple of prizes. He didn't rush into the KO. What he did was basically look forward and say, I can get the KO with Crobat. And he just accepted the fact it was going to take him a couple of turns to do. Danielle was going to take a couple of prizes in the meantime, but it didn't really matter. Go Danielle, quite frankly. Now there comes a Team Flare Grunt getting rid of the energy, and then we see a pass. Now, it must be pointed out that if Ryan runs out of resources here, we assume, and again I am just when we see an AZ coming down there, which means Hawlucha can come up. He's doing 100, which isn't a KO. If Danielle has something like an AZ and a Rough Seas here, this game switches around again very quickly. It should do 100, which will, put him on 150. Danielle started off quite nicely, blocking with Regice while taking prizes. Oh, and all we see here is a Shauna. And that's not ideal. However, maybe... and we can see that there's a strong energy in Ryan's hand. So that Toad's going down. Even if the Wailord goes up, will the Wailord go down? No, it's only 100 damage, 120. Oh, there is the Rough Seas. Now, it's not going to make a huge difference to the Seismitoad getting KO'd, but that's not particularly important. What Danielle can potentially do here is let the Seismitoad go down, let Ryan go down to 1 prize, and then maybe play a double Wailord game. Maybe she just benches a second Wailord, uses a combination of Rough Seas and AZ to just sit there and just play out the game. Now, Ryan's going to want a fighting stadium to get rid of that Rough Seas, but Ryan's in a good position here. Not an amazing position. It really depends on what Danielle's going to do here. Ryan's going to go down to 1 prize remaining. Big question is, has Danielle got anything she can do here? Because if she can start using a combination of, and she's counting Ryan's deck, do remember that Ryan has played a Shauna, and presumably he plays VS Seeker. Oh, Hard Charm coming down. Healing with Rough Seas. This is what Wailord does. Now, what's she going to go for here? Presumably nothing other than Wailord. I would be surprised if she went for anything other than Wailord here, and she hasn't. And the reasoning is very, very simple. Anything other than Wailord can get KO'd. And she's only got to give up one more prize to lose. Now, Ryan can basically, and Ryan will be thinking of this, Ryan is an exceptional player. Now, what do we have in terms of that Wailord? I can't see exactly how much HP it's on. Now, we see the bite coming down. That puts it on 110, which should mean it's got 140 left. It's currently doing 100, which isn't enough. That Wailord is beastly. Here's the thing, though. She needs to heal it completely here. Now, she's got a hard charm for the second Wailord. If she's got an AZ... Oh, and she's got nothing. And that is disappointing. You could see there were so many turns where Danielle could have won. That Cassius would have allowed her to put the Wailord back into her deck. Had she got something like a Cassius or an AZ, Ryan could well have decked out, and we never would have actually got a result here. But, as I've said, if your opponent can start taking prizes, and as you know, in that game as well, if you just whiff your healing, and that game could have been very, very different. Danielle goes down to 3 Wailords and starts streaming Cassius and AZ. Ryan can't win that game. He can't one-hit a Wailord. Sooner or later, he decks out. But Danielle doesn't hit that healing. Ryan manages to get a couple of KOs, and the whole game turned around very, very quickly indeed. Now, what I was saying about the Shauna was that Ryan, he'd already played a Shauna. I'm presuming, I wasn't counting, I'm afraid. It's hard to keep track of every card played. I am not Rain Man. Good film, by the way. If you haven't seen Rain Man, watch it. Just as a bit of a side note. Really good film. He's good at counting cards, that man. Anyway... But I'm assuming he had a VS Seeker left. So what Ryan could have done, and what he would have been thinking of doing, is just draw cards, draw cards, draw cards, try and get a hand of, 12, 15 cards, something like that, however many he had left, using as few cards as possible, at which stage he just turns around and goes, right, VS Seeker for a Shauna, and then he puts his hand down to 5 and buys many extra turns. Danielle, this game... Essentially, both players are going to try and play this exactly like they did last time. Ryan is going to be wanting to take the early prizes, focus on Horlucha, and try and kind of nick some prizes. If Danielle can't hit her healing, Danielle's going to want to hit her healing. Now, we saw at US Nationals this past year, which would have been 2015. Obviously, if you're watching this soon after it's put up this year, if you're watching it a while after it was put up last year... We saw at US Nationals these Wailord decks very consistent in all they really played was healing. By Danielle putting in a whole bunch of energy to use, that means that potentially we could run, well, Danielle could run into an issue of she just doesn't draw what she needs when she needs it because there's too much going on in her deck. Who knows? So Ryan starts off here with the Mill Tank. He's played another Corinna to start the game. And like all good players, he's looking through. He's trying to figure out what's prized. We're presuming he's going to probably get a Horlucha here because he had a lot of success with that in the previous game. As for Trainer, it depends what's in his deck. I have no idea. Maybe a Muscle Band, maybe a Focus Sash, maybe he wants an Ultra Ball or a Level Ball to get more Pokemon. He's going to go for the switch, it looks like, to get the Horlucha into the active. Best case scenario, Danielle is threatening a KO on turn 2. That's if she gets a Red Jice and then energy down on turn 1. Hopefully a Water Energy, because otherwise there's a very good chance an Enhanced Hammer's going to come down. But Danielle doesn't really want to win this game by taking prizes. Now, she did in the previous game take a bunch of prizes because at the time in the game that was her best option. There was a chance that she was going to be able to take a few prizes, maybe even win by prizes. That didn't pan out, but you saw there at the end of the game she was very close to just going, boom, you can't knock out a Wailord. So we see an Ultra Ball coming down, getting rid of an Ultra Ball and a Lucario. How many times have you seen Ultra Balling an Ultra Ball? A lot. And he's going to get a Shaman. Ryan's going to draw cards. And now, there's two things to look at here. On the one hand, he needs to draw cards to get set up to take prizes. On the other hand, the more cards he takes, the more likely he is to deck out. Now, if he plays a Bunnelby here, he can basically play the decking out game, i.e., I'm just going to stick a Bunnelby up and Rototiller, or the other one. Turn after turn, putting cards back into your deck. I can put 2 cards back into my deck every turn. I can't deck out. Ha ha ha. I'm going to sit here with Bunnelby. But it doesn't look like he plays Bunnelby. And it's a scummy way to win. But that would basically guarantee he wins the match. He can't deck out. And if Danielle tries to fight him with prizes, he can use his bats and all to take down the red dice. But that's a moot point. He doesn't have the Bunnelby. He's not going for the Bunnelby. We see a head ringer coming down on the Shaman. Oh, and a pass from Danielle, which isn't the end of the world, quite frankly. Because, and we see a VS Seeker for a Sycamore. Will we get the high five? They're not doing the high five. Come on, guys. That's a little bit lame. Should be high-fiving. It doesn't really matter if you pass a turn when you're sitting there with a 250 HP Wailord EX. Now, Ryan managed to do 120 damage that turn. He ain't even half dead. Although, she does need to do something here because that Wailord is at risk of getting KO'd next turn. And here we see a Crushing Hammer. Presuming it's Tails because the energy's staying on there. Oh, no, the dice didn't stay on the table. It is after all that, it's a Tails. Now, I mean, we could be seeing a KO next turn, because if a Strong Energy and a Crobat came down, that would be enough. Strong Energy, and we see an AZ here picking up the Wailord. Edge-a-Slash goes down. There is going to be no end next turn. Now, Hawlucha's still threatening a nice 2-hit KO on the Edge-a-Slash. He's doing 100 damage as it is. So Ryan is in decent position here. We see the AZ picking up the Shaman. Gets rid of the head ringer, which is entirely inconsequential, to be honest. But it means he's got the Shaman in hand. He can use it to draw more cards. But remember, Shaman draws until you got 6 in hand. And let's face it, Ryan's got a handful of cards going on right about now. So the Hawlucha comes down, does 100. And, Danielle's got her Rough Seas. That will both allow her to heal 30 and stop anything else coming down. You know, stop the extra damage from Fighting Stadium. Ryan's going to be able to... Oh, no, he's not, because Miltank... actually, if he's got a Crobat, Miltank will get the KO here. That is a fairly punishing Sycamore here. There's the Crobat, comes down, first card... He is going to get the KO on the Edge-a-Slash here. He'll be able to drop the Crobat. Now, we won't do the damage to the Edge-a-Slash. He'll do the damage to the Wailord because he'll now do 30 damage with the Miltank. 80 damage with the Miltank and get the KO. So you can see these Wailord decks. You see how they work with all the healing and the Rough Seas and the AZ and all of that. But if your opponent can start doing fast, consistent damage as we see here... That's a worry. Now, we see the Team Flegrunt getting rid of the energy on the Miltank. We also see the Rough Seas came down to heal the Wailord. But Ryan's got... Well, Ryan hasn't got that much deck left, actually, to be honest with you. And if Danielle... Ryan's only taken 2 prizes off the Edge-a-Slash. So, if Danielle can sit there and you see she's counting the deck, she knows what she's doing, there's a fair few cards left, and we know that Ryan plays stuff like Shauna, Miltank is doing 100 damage. Now, there's only so much that Danielle can heal and so many turns she can heal. If Ryan just sits there doing, what is amounting to 70 damage per turn, or 50 damage per turn, and if she keeps hitting things like Team Flegrunt and Crushing Hammer, this could get interesting. So we're on 90 there. I'm just going to let them do the counting and assume it's correct. And it looks like Ryan's taking off the Rough Seas there. So we're on 140. Wailord has got 250, that's 110. With the hard jump means Ryan has to do 130, and it's currently doing 100. So there will be no KO next turn, unless he can drop a Crobat. Dropping a Crobat, and there is a Golbat on the bench, ladies and gentlemen. Dropping a Crobat would allow the KO on the Wailord next turn. Dropping the Crobat would do 30 which would knock the Wailord up to 150, meaning that the Miltank would do... Oh no, sorry. He would also need a Golbat, but there's a Zubat down. Golbat and Zubat would put the Wailord on 100 and... Right, it's on 140, so it is just a Crobat. 140 plus the Golbat puts the Wailord on 170, which means that the Miltank would do 100, dropping down to 80 with the Hard Charm, and would get the KO. Now we see Ryan going aggressively here. He's obviously thinking, maybe I'm going to deck out, but that's a risk I'm willing to take. I'm willing to take the risk of decking out so that I can try and finish off this game and KO the Wailord and other Pokemon. It's either going to work or it's going to backfire spectacularly and cost him the game. So no KO this turn, unfortunately. And we see a Heads on the Crushing Hammer. And we see an Enhanced Hammer coming down. And we see a Cassius popping the Wailord back into the deck. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. That's pretty gosh darn cool. Well, depends how you're looking at it, to be honest. If you're Danielle or cheering for Danielle, that's pretty gosh darn cool. If you're Ryan or cheering for Ryan, that's horrific. Now here comes with the Seismitoad. But remember, could there be a win this turn? No. Oh, and that's it. That's the downside of Cassius, ladies and gentlemen. Puts it into the deck. Danielle runs out of Pokemon. Next turn would not have fixed everything. Danielle runs out of Pokemon, and you see there, Ryan went very aggressively. Ryan went through a huge amount of cards in his deck. It could have backfired. Had Danielle got her healing stream going, Ryan would have decked out fairly easily in Game 2, but she didn't. Ryan took a risk, and it paid off pretty spectacularly. So, a very interesting deck on the part of Danielle, but she didn't draw as well as she wanted. And a wonderful game played, both turn games there by Ryan. He really is one of the best players in the world. Yeah, he's British, and a lot of people are like, oh, he's good for a British guy. He's come very close to top cutting worlds both his years in Masters. Quite frankly, he is a spectacular player. And you saw proof of it in that game. He was really, really going for it there. So, brilliant game from good players. As always, thank you to IQ Gaming for letting us record. Huge thank you to Terry Goodacre for doing the recording and letting me have the files. And thank you to Ryan and Danielle for being on stream. It's YouTube, it's 2015 or later. You guys know how this works. Comment, like, subscribe. Tell me all the mistakes I'm making in my commentary. I'm going to be back with round 4 very shortly. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.